and welcome to another live reading. Today is going to be Chapter 3 of Jordan's Arrow, which is Book 2 in the Jordan of Algorand series. I'm actually really happy to bring this chapter to you today. It is one of my favorite chapters in the book, and it introduces a new set of characters. And so we'll just go ahead and get right into it. Chapter 3, A New Leader. Ilsketh Jartov did not choose to be the leader of the Gulsta. A daughter among 8 other male siblings, she was the only one born with the clan sign, a long red birthmark on her pale yellow right cheek, roughly the shape of a scythe's blade. She was taken by members of the ruling council to be educated and trained when Ilsketh reached the age of 4. Her parents were well compensated for their sacrifice. The rulers, governing factions, and warriors lived separate from the rest of the Gulsta. They resided in a harsher, more difficult-to-reach region called Kamethla. It was there that the ruling council devised elaborate strategies, while the warriors forged their strength and increased their prowess in the art of battle. Ilsketh spent most of her childhood in Kamethla. As future leader, she had to learn the 1,000-cycle history of the Gulsta and their many laws. She also was required to sit in on tactical sessions with the council. Furthermore, she was expected to become a military leader and the fiercest warrior among their people. As a result, Ilsketh went through more stringent mental and physical training than anyone else. For 15 years, she endured a punishing schedule which began before daylight and went well into each evening. She held the title of Heng Da, or High One, in the Gulsta language. But absolutely no disobedience was tolerated. Any signs of rebellion were quashed immediately. And under the guidance of the ruling council and the warrior general, Ilsketh was molded into a tempered, perfect sword, their beloved future leader. Outside of the ruling council itself, she was the most powerful person in the region. One morning, as she was finishing some stretches, a scout ran towards the village, his feet kicking up pebbles, dirt, and snow as he approached. His uniform was torn and disheveled from the long trek. Intrigued, Ilsketh walked toward the front gate, her dark brown bangs blowing into her eyes by the icy winds. Observing the scout's short, lean stature and bald head, he appeared to be in his late 20s to mid-30s. In contrast, while the back of Ilsketh's hair was short, even severe, it was shorn in line patterns demarking her position. She was tall for a Gulsta, reaching about 6 feet, athletic but trim. She had grown accustomed to seeing the dark yellow circles beneath her incredibly sharp eyes, which were the color of lavender. In front of her, the short and thin scout was panting, clearly exhausted from traveling far. His bulging eyes declared his fear, haunted and unsure. The imposingly strong guards helped him remain on his feet and catch his breath. "The battle did not go well," the scout gasped. "The leader took 4 squads. But it wasn't enough." "What happened?" one guard demanded. "The leader fell. So did most of the squads," the scout lamented. "Only a few warriors made it back to tell of the battle before taking final sacrifice. The last of them sent me." The guards nodded with dire certainty. "You did well. We will alert the ruling council," one guard told the scout. "Thank you. I request final sacrifice," the scout said, eyes lowered. Only warriors could perform the task, either for themselves or anyone else. "For your service, I will grant your request." The guard landed a killing strike with his sword. The scout fell to the ground, relief frozen on his face. Both guards gave a slight bow. "I will go inform the ruling council," one guard said. "When I return, perform the death rites for the scout." "It will be done," his counterpart acknowledged. Ilsketh saluted the guard as he neared her. He returned the gesture. "Heng Da?" the guard asked. "I will accompany you," she said. "Yes, Heng Da." The ruling council was in a state of chaos that Ilsketh had never witnessed before. She sat in the council chamber, a circular hall hundreds of cycles old, built with large gray stones and having wooden pillars throughout. At the center of the room was a long, wide, and sturdy table crafted from the same rock as the walls. A bright fixture resembled a timbered, candlelit chandelier was suspended from the ceiling. Fresh air permeated from two small bay windows, one on the eastern wall as well as its opposite. Normally reserved and deliberate, the 18 members were loudly arguing with each other, following the news delivered by the guard. Most seemed to be in shock, while others were clearly vying to increase their own political power. Anger and disgust rose from within Ilsketh. She went and grabbed the ceremonial war hammer from its honorary place on the northern wall. She took its hilt firmly in both hands and slammed it into the middle of the ancient stone deliberation table. "Enough!" she screamed. "I will have order in this room." She succeeded in getting everyone's attention. They turned and faced her, stunned by her audacity and display of authority. However, she was Hengda. Legally, she was the only one with the right to command them, especially now. But they had not expected her to do so. "I know I have only seen 19 cycles and have much to learn," she growled, pacing the room like a cat, occasionally looking at various council members. "But even I know that now is not the time to fall apart." "Hengda is wise." That voice belonged to Segim Artol, the chief of the ruling council, an elder who had presided since before Ilsketh's birth. Tall and stout, he appeared astute, but weary, and perhaps wary as well. His hair was long, gray, and well-groomed. Like the rest of the council, he wore a midnight blue robe and ornamental jewelry made of local crystals and refined metals. Ilsketh looked at him with contempt, but kept her speech respectful. "Who were we fighting?" she said. "The Mountain Makta," Segim replied. "I heard that the Makta were good fighters," Ilsketh affirmed. "Did our people die well?" "Their chiefess offered them the chance for peace, to retreat." Ilsketh made a low murmuring sound, her expression twisting into one of disgust. "That is not our way," she demurred coldly. "Yes, Hengda. Our people fought to the last warrior, including the leader." "Good." Ilsketh knew Segim was not one to miss an opportunity and was clearly still upset by the Hengda embarrassing the council. He cleared his throat and looked her in the eyes expectantly. "You are now leader, Hengda. What shall we do?" Segim asked. "Do?" Ilsketh repeated. "I will explain. Should your people punish these Makta for their arrogance, or should we set our sights on new territories?" His tone had been splendidly reverent, but Ilsketh had participated in enough council meetings to see the trap he had laid for her. Fortunately, she had anticipated his actions before entering the chamber and devised a plan of her own. The Makta acted within the confines of their laws and traditions. They were not arrogant, she uttered slowly, even defiantly. "However, I will not let our people and our former leader go unavenged. In the early days, did we not learn from the example of Daltath? Her father Kintosh surrendered 4 provinces to the Windana to wage peace. The Windana returned a cycle later and attempted to take all of the Gulsta lands. But Daltath, also born with the clan sign, slew Kintosh and took command. Her cunning and savagery not only repelled the invaders, but she spent the rest of her life hunting them down. Now there are no more Windana. Daltath taught us that surrender is never an option. So do not ask me if I will act in a way that sounds or looks like surrender. If I ignore what the Makta did, it says we are weak and invites them to attack us, to believe they can conquer us. Obviously, that is not so." It was sickening to see Segim smile at her. Did he believe he had snared her? They both knew a battle now would not go well. The warriors would still be demoralized by the death of the previous leader. They also would not have much goodwill or rapport built with Ilsketh. Following this path would force her to rely on the council more. It would increase Segim's influence over her future decisions. and Ilsketh would not be so easily manipulated. But now is not the time for renewed conflict, Ilsketh continued, addressing the entire council and making eye contact with each member as she turned. We will bury our dead and heal from this loss. We will grow our forces and properly prepare for battle. I will show you that your efforts in training me have not been in vain. We will attack in overwhelming numbers from all sides, striking down their defenses and use their own people as hostages. We will take the Makta mountain. It will be they who surrender or die. Segem's expression burned with indignation at the ease with which Ilsketh had evaded him. She had actually turned the situation to her advantage. Her words were met with praise and thunderous applause from the council. Not only that, but she knew her plan was sound. She could tell he knew that too, and he was not happy about it. Exiting the council chambers, Segem approached Ilsketh. Without a word or even a visual acknowledgement of his proximity, she walked upstairs to the roof, indicating she wished to talk privately. Arms folded, she looked at the sky, which threatened more snow, ignoring the mountains in the distance and the rugged, barren landscape which surrounded them, lacking trees and even grass in some areas. Only scavenging animals and insects made this place their home. It was appropriate for training warriors because it was good for little else. Food and supplies had to be brought from other Gulstock communities. "What is it?" she asked dismissively. "I know you have more to say." Resting her hands on her hips, Ilsketh refused to turn around and face Segem. She understood how disrespectful this was, but she didn't care. "Congratulations! You handled your first challenge well," he replied with a syrupy voice. Now that he had spoken, she turned to face him and regretted it immediately. His hands were in a submissive pose in front of him, his head slightly bowed, accentuating his already hunched posture from advancing age. The crafty look in his eyes and the width of his smile reminded Ilsketh of a desert reptile, confident and preparing to strike. "No thanks to you," she scoffed. "Should I go out of my way to make things easy for you, leader?" "Watch your tongue, old man," Ilsketh barked, her eyes narrowing, temper barely held in check. "I know you cannot show bias towards me, but you don't have to go out of your way to make things more difficult either." "I treat you the same as any member of the council." "Yes," her nose flared as she inhaled through it. "That's not at all comforting, you know." Segem chuckled hoarsely. "Yes, well, what is it you want, Segem?" she interrupted him. Her facial features may have felt calm, but her eyes burned, betraying her dwindling patience. The older man appeared to appreciate her directness. "You made a unique choice. The first of many, I am sure," he continued. "Still, you have also given yourself time." "Time?" she repeated. "For what?" "You are a leader from a new family line," Segem said. "You will need a potential heir." Ilsketh momentarily recoiled at what Segem was suggesting. Then her training took hold and she forced herself to consider his words carefully. Her life was not only hers, it belonged to her people. She had a responsibility to them first. Her own desires were an afterthought at best. "Has a mate been chosen?" she said. "Yes, leader." "When is the ceremony?" "At nightfall." "And how long to rebuild and strengthen our forces, Segem?" "Our losses were significant, leader. 5 cycles to reach previous levels. We must be better than before. I want the Gulstad to be feared and respected." "That will take 7 cycles, perhaps 8. Do whatever is necessary, but make it happen, councilman." "On my life," Segem said sternly. Seconds later, his breathing relaxed. She could sense his amusement without looking at him. It was revolting. "The twin stars favor you, leader," Segem added, a hint of acidity underlying his mollifying tone. "In 8 cycles, you could bear and raise several offspring. Any one of them could bear the clan sign. I would caution you, however. It is perfectly natural to let a mate and motherhood soften you. And I do not just mean emotionally. Having children will change your body." Not taking his bait, she smiled mischievously. "Will you also remind me that snow is cold?" No, Hengda. But since you were taken from your own family at such a young age, I will remind you that you will be tempted to reclaim what you lost. A shame such sentiments have no place in leadership or your heart. You can speak on matters of ruling, Segim, Ilsketh said in a dangerous whisper, but you will never speak from my heart. Do you understand? Yes, Segim replied, deliberately leaving out her title. It was a punishable offense, another lure from the crafty old man, but she knew Segim would never be foolish enough to endanger his own power. To accuse him, Ilsketh would have to make his action and her response public record. That would sully her reputation, making her look petty and weak at the start of her authority. Anything short of his banishment would not be worth the personal cost to her. If looks could impart violence, the councilman would have been battered senseless from Ilsketh's wordless fury. She clenched one fist in her jaw tightly for several seconds. Then she took in a deep breath and released it slowly. Very well. You have performed your task, and you can be assured that all is as it should be, Ilsketh relented, forcibly restraining her own tears towards the severity of Segim's cruel words. I must prepare. Yes, leader. As she descended the stairs, Ilsketh considered several ways to respond to his insolence in the future, some of which included disposing of her former mentor, but she decided against that since he did not have many years left anyway, and his knowledge and experience were occasionally useful. And that is the end of Chapter 3, introducing the Gulstar leader, Ilsketh. I hope you enjoyed this, and feel free at any time to leave feedback. I hope you'll join me next time for Chapter 4.